June 17th, 1944. North Africa. The desert heat presses down like a weight. Inside a canvas field tent, Obergefreiter Klaus Bergman lies motionless on a cot. The air smells of sweat, disinfectant, and decay. His own leg is rotting away. 3 days ago, shrapnel tore through his thigh during the American advance. Now the wound has turned black. Gangrene, he knows what that means. He's seen it before, men screaming while their legs were sawn off without mercy. But those were Germans. He's in American hands now, and he's been told since training what happens to captured soldiers. Torture, experimentation, no mercy. The propaganda films made it clear, surrender is worse than death. Outside, Klaus hears voices, Americans laughing, joking. They don't sound like monsters, but he knows better. His heart pounds as the tent flap opens. A tall man in khaki steps inside, an officer with a Red Cross patch on his arm. He looks more like a teacher than a soldier. His name tag reads Bradley. The captain pulls up a metal stool beside the cot and looks at Klaus's leg. His tone is calm, almost gentle. "Rough break, soldier," he says in broken German. "We're going to try something new." Something new? Klaus freezes. Maybe this is the torture they warned him about. The man signals to a young medic nearby. "Let's prep him," he says. Klaus's mind races. 3 days earlier, he'd been in the middle of hell. His unit was cornered near Kasserine Pass. American tanks on the ridge, machine guns cutting through the sand. No food, no water, no chance. Then came the explosion. Metal tore through his thigh. He fell face first into the dirt. Blood soaked the sand around him. His comrades had already dropped their rifles, shouting, "Kamerad!" In surrender, Klaus tried to crawl. The pain was blinding. He thought, this is how I die. But instead of a bullet, he felt hands, strong, unfamiliar hands, lifting him. Not Germans, Americans. Someone pressed a bandage to his leg, shouting orders in English. "Hold pressure here!" Then a voice close to his ear, calm, firm. "Easy, buddy." "We got you." He opened his eyes. The face above him was young, barely 20, sweat dripping from his brow. "You're gonna be okay, Fritz," the medic said. "Hang in there." The word Fritz, the American nickname for German soldiers, wasn't said with hate, more like habit. Then came the needle, morphine. The pain melted into warmth. He thought he'd wake up in a prison camp. Instead, he woke up here alive under an American flag. Now Captain Bradley studies his wound. The leg is swollen, purple, dead in places. Klaus tries to brace himself for the saw. "You're lucky to be alive," Bradley says, inspecting the bandage. But the infection has spread fast. Gas gangrene. Klaus knows the word. It's a death sentence. "We'll have to amputate," Bradley continues, but then pauses. "Unless..." He turns to his medic. "Eddie, bring me the vial." The young man, Eddie Morrison, as his name tag reads, opens a small metal box. Inside, glass vials shimmer under the weak light. Bradley looks at Klaus. "There's something new," he says carefully. "Her drug, Penicillin." Klaus doesn't understand. "A drug?" He's never heard the word. "It kills the infection," Bradley explains. "It's saved lives before. Maybe it can save yours." Klaus shakes his head weakly. Why help me?" "I'm your enemy," Bradley sighs. "You're a patient now." "That's all that matters." Eddie fills a syringe. The fluid glows golden under the lamplight. Klaus watches, terrified. His body screams to resist, but he can't move. The needle pierces his arm, a sting. Then warmth spreading through his veins. Eddie's voice is steady. "It's medicine, Klaus, just medicine. You'll be okay." Minutes pass. The tent hums with flies. Then slowly Klaus's heartbeat steadies. The fever that had burned behind his eyes begins to cool. For the first time in days, his mind drifts towards sleep. Hours later, he wakes drenched in sweat. The pain has dulled. The smell, once unbearable, is fading. Eddie checks his temperature, grins. "Fever's down." "Doc, it's working." Bradley glances over, hiding a rare smile. "Good, keep the dosage steady." Klaus stares at them both, confused. The propaganda had lied. The Americans weren't monsters. They were doctors. He wants to ask questions, but exhaustion wins. His eyes close again. When morning comes, sunlight spills through the tent flap. Bradley unwraps the bandages. The blackened flesh is lighter, the edges pink. "Incredible," the captain mutters. "It's actually working." He looks up at Klaus. "You might keep your leg." Klaus can barely speak. "Why?" he whispers. "Why save me?" Bradley studies him for a long moment. "Because we can." He stands, scribbling notes on a clipboard. "Rest, soldier. You've got healing to do." Eddie replaces the bandages, humming softly, a tune Klaus doesn't recognize. For the first time since he was captured, Klaus feels something strange stirring beneath the fear. Gratitude. He closes his eyes and whispers to himself in German. "Vielleicht sind sie keine Monster." Maybe they're not monsters after all. Klaus wakes to the sound of rain tapping against the tent roof. His fever is gone. The air smells cleaner. For the first time in days, he doesn't feel like he's dying. Eddie walks in carrying a tray. "Morning, Klaus," he says with that same easy grin. "How's the leg?" Klaus glances down. The pain is still there, but different. Dull, not burning. "Better," he manages to say. Eddie nods. "Penicillin's a miracle, huh?" The word still means nothing to Klaus. All he knows is that it's keeping him alive. Captain Bradley enters, rubbing his eyes, holding a clipboard covered in notes. "Well, Herr Bergman," he says in his careful German, "you're responding well." The infection's stopped spreading. Klaus looks away. "So, you will not cut?" Bradley smiles faintly. "Not if I can help it. You might even walk again." Klaus doesn't know whether to believe him. Back home, the army doctors would have amputated already. Here, his enemy is fighting to save his leg. "Why do you do this?" he finally asks. Bradley lowers the clipboard. "Because saving life is the opposite of war." He turns to Eddie. "Keep the doses regular. Every 4 hours." Then to Klaus. "Rest. You're winning your own little battle." The doctor leaves. Klaus stares at the tent ceiling, the words echoing in his head. Saving life is the opposite of war. Hours turn to days. The field hospital hums with the rhythm of survival. Trucks coming in, men screaming, morphine shots, prayers whispered into the hot desert air. But inside Klaus's tent, the chaos fades into routine. Eddie changes the dressings, injects the medicine, cracks jokes he barely understands. "You Germans," Eddie says one day, "you build damn fine machines, but you sure break easy." Klaus almost smiles. "War breaks everyone," he replies quietly. Eddie stops, then nods. "Yeah, guess it does." Each morning, Bradley checks the wound. It's healing. The black tissue has peeled away, revealing raw red skin beneath. "Unbelievable," he murmurs. "If this keeps up, you'll keep the leg." Klaus feels a surge of emotion he can't explain. Relief, gratitude, confusion. He whispers, "Danke." Bradley pats his shoulder. "Don't thank me. Thank science, and maybe a little luck." That night, Klaus dreams of home, of his sister Maria laughing in the orchard, the smell of apples and sunlight filling the air. When he wakes, his eyes sting, not from pain, but from something he hasn't felt in years. Hope. He looks at Eddie, asleep in a chair beside him, and wonders how many men this young medic has saved. How many he couldn't. The next day, Eddie brings him coffee. "It's awful," he warns, "but it's hot." Klaus takes a sip and winces. "It is terrible," he admits. Eddie laughs. "See? We can agree on something." For a moment, they're just two men, not enemies. By the end of the week, Klaus can sit up without fainting. The swelling is nearly gone. Bradley watches him with quiet pride. "You're one stubborn bastard, Klaus," he says. "I like that." Klaus smirks weakly. "German engineering." Bradley chuckles. "Guess so." He pauses. "You'll be transferred soon to a POW camp in Italy. Better food, real beds. You'll be safe there." The word safe feels strange to Klaus. Safety doesn't exist in war. "Before you go," Bradley adds, "I want to thank you." "Thank me?" Klaus frowns. "For what?" "For proving this works. You helped us save lives. Yours was the first German case we tried penicillin on." Klaus blinks, realizing what that means. He's become part of something bigger than himself, a moment of mercy in a world built on hate. Bradley offers his hand. Klaus hesitates, then takes it. The handshake is firm, honest. "Good luck, Klaus," Bradley says. "Maybe someday this war will end and we'll meet without uniforms." Eddie packs Klaus's few belongings, a canteen, a folded blanket, and a photograph. He slips the photo into Klaus's hand. "My family," Eddie says. "In case you ever wonder who patched you up." Klaus studies the image, a woman and 2 kids smiling on a porch. Ordinary faces, ordinary life. He looks up. "You are a good man, Eddie." Don't tell my sergeant that, Eddie laughs. Outside, a truck rumbles to life. Rain has stopped, and sunlight breaks through the clouds. As they lift him onto the transport, Klaus turns to look back at the tent, the place where his enemy became his savior, the place where he stopped seeing monsters. As the truck pulls away, he whispers in German, "Vielleicht? Sie sind Menschen wie wir." Maybe. They are human too. He closes his eyes, feeling the rhythm of the road beneath him, the hum of the engine, the ache in his leg that reminds him he's still alive. And somewhere deep inside, the young German soldier begins to believe in something he thought had died long ago: hope. The truck rumbles across endless desert roads. Hours blur into days. Klaus drifts in and out of sleep, the hum of the engine blending with the thoughts swirling in his head. He keeps touching his thigh, half expecting the leg to be gone. But it's still there, weak, bandaged but alive. When they finally reach the coast, he's loaded onto a ship bound for Italy. The POW camp sits outside Naples, surrounded by barbed wire and olive trees. It's not paradise, but it's not hell either. The guards are young, tired of war. They don't shout much. They don't look at the prisoners like animals. Klaus is assigned to a small wooden barrack with 20 other Germans. Most of them are wounded, burned, limping, missing limbs. They ask about the Americans. "Did they beat you?" one whispers. "No," Klaus answers. "They saved me." The others stare, not sure if he's joking. "Saved you? Why?" Klaus shrugs. "I don't know. Maybe because they could." Days in the camp pass slowly. The food is thin soup and stale bread, but it's enough. There's no gunfire, no bombs. Sometimes the guards play music on a radio. Soft jazz, strange and beautiful. It reminds Klaus of the world outside the war. He begins to walk again, limping at first, then steadier each day. The leg aches constantly, but it's his. And every time he puts weight on it, he thinks of Captain Bradley and that golden liquid called penicillin. One afternoon he's sitting by the fence, sketching in the dirt with a stick. Eddie's face comes to mind, the medic who joked about bad coffee. He wonders if Eddie survived. If Bradley did, if they even remember him. Then a guard calls his number. "Bergman! Medical check, move!" Klaus limps to the camp infirmary. The room smells of disinfectant, the same scent as that tent in Africa. An American doctor looks up from a clipboard. For a heartbeat, Klaus freezes. It's him. Captain Bradley. Bradley blinks, then smiles in disbelief. "Klaus Bergman." "I'll be damned." Klaus almost laughs. "Do you remember me?" "Hard to forget my first German penicillin case." They shake hands, both of them smiling like old friends meeting again after years. Bradley examines his leg carefully. "Healing beautifully." "You're lucky, Klaus. A few more hours in that desert and we'd be talking about a prosthetic." Klaus nods. "I know, you saved me." Bradley waves the words away. "Science saved you." "I just followed it." Then he pauses. "You look different, stronger." Klaus smiles faintly. "You said I'd walk again." "And you did." For a while they talk like equals. About the war. About home. Bradley tells him it's almost over. Allied troops are pushing into France. The end is coming. Klaus listens quietly. He doesn't feel joy or anger, just exhaustion. "What will happen to us?" he asks. "You'll go home when it's done," Bradley says. "Maybe start over." "Start over," Klaus repeats softly, as if testing the words. Weeks pass. The camp changes. Guards relax. The fences seem less threatening. Prisoners work in nearby fields, gathering olives under the hot sun. One evening, Klaus sits by the fence again, watching the sunset. He remembers Eddie's photograph, the smiling woman, the two kids, and wonders if they're still waiting for him somewhere in America. He doesn't have the picture anymore. He lost it during transport. But he remembers every detail. Months later, news spreads like wildfire through the camp. The war is over. Germany has surrendered. Some men cheer, others cry. Klaus feels neither, just emptiness. The thing that had defined his life is gone. Now he's just a man with a limp and too many ghosts. Weeks later, a transport truck arrives. "Repatriation," the guard announces. "You're going home." As they're processed out, Bradley appears again, clipboard in hand. "You made it," he says. "Looks like you get your wish." Klaus hesitates. "And you? You go home too?" Bradley nods. "Yeah, back to Boston. Maybe teach again. Maybe just sleep for a year." Klaus smiles faintly. If you ever come to Stuttgart, I owe you coffee, Bradley laughs. Only if you promise it's not army coffee. They shake hands again, firmer this time, both knowing they'll probably never meet again. The truck takes Klaus north, through ruined cities, across a shattered Germany. Everywhere he looks, smoke, rubble, silence. When he finally reaches home, nothing is as it was. His sister's house is gone. His father's factory reduced to ash. But he's alive. And in the wreckage, that feels like a miracle. He finds work rebuilding roads. Every morning as he limps to the site, he feels the ache in his thigh and thinks of that American tent, that syringe, that voice saying, "You're in good hands." He never sees Bradley or Eddie again. But he keeps their memory like a quiet prayer. Years later, in 1951, a letter arrives at his small apartment. It's from the United States. The handwriting is careful, familiar. "Klaus, I hope this finds you well. I wanted you to know penicillin is saving thousands now, because it worked on you. You were part of something bigger than both of us. Stay well, my friend. Robert Bradley." Klaus sits at his kitchen table, reading it over and over. He smiles. Outside, children play in the street, laughing in a language untouched by war. He folds the letter carefully and slips it into a box beside his bed. Sometimes at night, when the ache in his leg returns, he touches the scar and whispers softly in German, "Danke." Not to a country, not to an army, but to the men who showed him that mercy can survive even in war. A small hospital in Stuttgart hums with quiet purpose. Nurses move between white beds, their footsteps echoing softly on the tiled floor. Klaus Bergman, now in his early 40s, limps down the corridor, a folder tucked under his arm. The years have left lines on his face, but his eyes are calm, steady. The eyes of a man who has seen everything and somehow learned to live with it. He works here now, not as a doctor, not as a nurse, but as a maintenance worker, fixing lights, carrying supplies, mending whatever breaks. He doesn't wear a uniform anymore. He prefers silence, routine, and the feeling of being useful. Every so often, he passes the hospital's small medical lab and sees vials of penicillin lined up on the counter. That same golden liquid that once flowed into his veins in a dusty tent under a foreign sky. Every time he sees it, something in his chest stirs. One day, a nurse calls him. "Herr Bergman, we need help in Ward 3. The heating's down again." He grabs his tools and walks in. Inside, a young boy lies on the bed, barely breathing. His mother sits beside him, tears in her eyes. A doctor leans over, adjusting a glass syringe filled with penicillin. "It's pneumonia," the doctor says quietly. "We caught it just in time." Klaus watches as the medicine flows into the boy's arm. For a moment, he's not in Stuttgart. He's back in North Africa, the smell of sand and antiseptic in the air. Captain Bradley's voice saying, "You're going to be fine, son." Minutes later, the boy's breathing steadies. The color slowly returns to his face. The doctor smiles. "He'll make it." The mother clasps Klaus's hands, mistaking him for part of the staff. "Thank you," she whispers. Klaus doesn't correct her. He just nods. "He's strong," he says softly. That night, Klaus can't sleep. He sits by his window, looking out at the city rebuilt from ashes. Cars glide by. Children laugh in the distance. He opens the drawer beside his bed and takes out a small worn envelope, the letter from Captain Bradley. He's read it so many times the paper is thin and fragile, but he reads it again anyway. "Klaus, I hope this finds you well. Penicillin is saving thousands now. You were part of something bigger than both of us." He smiles faintly. Bigger than both of us. The words echo in his mind. He thinks of the American who saved him, the medic who joked about bad coffee, the enemy soldiers who treated him not as a German, not as a foe, but as a man. He realizes now that survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about what you do after. In the months that follow, Klaus starts volunteering in the children's ward. He reads to them, repairs their toys, brings small sweets he can barely afford. When parents ask why he helps so much, he only says, "Because someone once helped me." He never tells them the full story. Some things he thinks are better carried quietly. Years pass. The world moves on. One afternoon in 1964, Klaus receives another letter, this time from America again. It's short, written in a shaky hand. "Dear Klaus, if this reaches you, I wanted you to know I never forgot that day in the desert. Thank you for reminding me that mercy matters. even when everything around us says it doesn't. Eddie Collins, Eddie, the medic, the one who smiled through chaos. Klaus presses the paper to his chest, eyes wet. He never expected another letter, never expected anyone to remember. The next morning, he takes both letters, Bradley's and Eddie's, and walks to the hospital. There's a small display in the hallway about medical advances of the century. A framed photo of Alexander Fleming, the discoverer of penicillin, hangs beside it. Klaus stands there for a long time, then quietly slips the letters behind the frame, where no one will see them but where they'll remain, close to the medicine that changed everything. He steps outside. The sun warms his face. Children run past him, laughing, chasing each other through the courtyard. Klaus limps slowly toward the gate, breathing in the crisp spring air. For a long moment he just stands there, eyes closed, listening to the sound of life all around him, a sound that had once vanished from his world. He whispers something under his breath, a mix of English and German, as if speaking to ghosts who might still be listening. "You were right, Captain. Science saved me, but kindness kept me alive." And with that, Klaus Bergman walks home. Not the soldier who fell in the desert, not the prisoner who limped through war, but the man who learned that even in the darkest times, humanity can shine brighter than any victory.